Hey, Woodrow families. Welcome back to Time with the Counselor, Coffee with the Counselor. It's the Monday after Halloween. So had to go for 2 cups today, but we're making it. Everybody's excited, loving to talk about their fun weekend. But I did want to spend some time with you today to talk about a topic that, can be pretty serious sometimes. And our topic today is going to be anger management. And so, like I said, this can be an interesting topic sometimes. And I have had some families ask, my child doesn't do well expressing themselves, or my child, can kind of just get kind of lash out, I guess you would say, and all of those things are pretty normal. But I do want to kind of help you work with your child on some of these things because it is very important. Because if they don't get these things under control at an early age, it can get somewhat out of hand and even get somewhat serious in the future. So let's talk for a little while today about some anger management. All right, again, I apologize if I look down every once in a while, but I have to have some notes to help me. So let's just start by saying anger management is a pretty important and specific topic, and we're going to talk about how you can help your child express their anger in a positive way. Okay. I want to remind all of you that anger is a very normal emotion. And the goal of working with your child or children on anger management is not to prevent them from ever feeling angry, but to help them express their feelings in a healthy way. And a great way to remind children of this is to tell them that it's okay for them to be mad, but it's not okay for them to be mean. And I think that is a great way of explaining that. And I try to do that as well at school. It's okay for you to be mad, but we still have to try to handle it in a kind way as much as we can. All right, so let's look at some tips for you guys when we're talking about anger management. We do know that children are ultimately responsible for the choices that they make. And there are things that you can do as a parent or a guardian to support your children as they work on anger management. Okay, so first step, I want you to try to consider what your child is communicating through his or her anger, because that's where a lot of this starts, is they don't know how to communicate it well. They know they're mad or angry, but they don't know why sometimes, or they can't explain why sometimes. And a lot of times it can be a manifestation of other feelings like disappointment, sadness, or frustration. We seem to see a lot of like frustration here at school, I think, when it comes to doing schoolwork or with interactions with other friends and things like that. But when you consider what the root of the anger is, you're going to be able to better help your child work through that. Okay. And another important part of anger management is helping your child learn strategies they can use to cope with the anger they experience. We will talk more about some specific things that your child can do, but it's important to have a plan in place for what your child can do when he or she gets angry. Okay. And just like any skilled children, they get better at using coping skills with practice. And it's best to practice these strategies and to talk about their coping skills plan when they're calm. Because if they're in that state of sadness, anger, frustration, it's going to be very hard to practice these things. The more comfortable your child is with using these strategies, the more likely they will to use them when they are feeling very upset. And something else that can be helpful is to have a visual representation of your child's coping strategies. Depending on their age, this can be a piece of paper with pictures on it, or it could be a list of different strategies they can do. And you want to put it in a place where they will see it often. Okay. And that's a great way to make sure your child is familiar with the strategies, and it can give them ideas for what they can do when they start to feel angry. when you see them using those coping skills, you witness it, or at least trying to, attempting to, make sure to praise them, make a huge deal of it, because that's just only going to encourage it even more. And let them know that the efforts they're making, they're not unseen. You see what they're doing, you see what they're trying to do, and that you're proud of the work they're doing. Okay. And one of the most important and most difficult things to remember when your child is angry is to make sure you are in control of your own anger. Now, if we respond to the child's anger with more anger, it kind of just adds fuel to the fire, like they say. And if you notice that you're starting to get angry, it's going to be important to use your own coping strategies. Not only is this going to help them or help, it's going to help you support your child, but it's also going to give them a chance to see that you are modeling the behavior that you want to see from them. And so thankfully, there's a lot of different coping strategies that you may help your child with dealing with his or her anger. And it's also great to have a variety of coping strategies that your child can choose from, because some coping skills may not always be possible, or they may not seem helpful at the time. You can find lists of these online, hundreds of different coping strategies. But today I'm just going to share a few with you, and some of my favorites and some of the ones that we use here at school even. Now, a powerful and one of my most favorite coping strategies for any emotion is deep breathing. It just helps relax and calm the entire body, because your emotions happen in a different part of your brain, and it happens more towards the back of your brain, and your rationalizing, your coping, your decision making happens in the front of your brain. So that may not seem like a very far ways, but there is a lot of pathways and neurons and all of those things that have to fire and work. And when your emotions are really heightened, really strong, the whole frontal lobe, that whole rationalizing, decision making, kind of goes out the door. So deep breathing, that can help slow down your child's brain and their body. And it can be really helpful when they feel really amped up or they're very overwhelmed. Many times it can also be beneficial for your child to just get out of the situation that is making him or her angry. And of course, that's not always possible, but walking away can give your child the ability to step out of the situation before it gets too intense. And it's important to remind your child that even if they are leaving a situation that makes them upset, an adult must always know where they are. And if it's okay and if they can, they really need to try to ask for permission. And I've talked to kids about this at school sometimes, just asking your teacher for a break and just letting them know you need some time to cool off is totally acceptable. And most teachers are going to be willing to do that if it's an okay time for it. Many children, anger presents itself with the desire to act out in a physical way. That's why you see them, maybe hitting or pushing or kicking or just something that's very physical in that moment. And it's important for children and people and grownups in general to become, it's very common for us to all do that, to become physically aggressive when we're angry. And it's helpful to still give them an opportunity to release that anger physically, but of course, in a more safe way. And this could be something like punching a pillow, ripping paper into a trash can, pushing down on their seat or on their desktop. I actually teach them how to do that one as well in class. And some other really good coping strategies that are usually doable would be something like getting a drink of water, and that can help soothe your child. Talking to an adult, talking to someone about what's going on, or just really thinking about things that make them happy. Such as their favorite place or a really fond memory. And so you could have pictures of this, you could have a list of this somewhere for them to reference, because when they're in that state of really heightened emotion, Like I said, they're not going to be able to make these decisions very quickly. So if you've got a picture clue or a visual for them to look at or a list, that just takes the whole decision making out for them and just gives them something really quickly. All right, so really good coping skills there, but like I said, that's not all. There's lots more out there, but those are just a few. So now let's spend some time and talk about things that we can say, things that are good to say, and then on the flip side of that, some things to avoid saying. Okay. Now, one thing that can make anger management hard for kids is that they don't even realize that they're angry until that anger has gotten out of control. Okay. By simply helping them identify their anger, you're helping them learn to recognize it for themselves. And simply noting their anger in a calm, non judgmental way is a great way to help children realize how they are feeling. Anger is a very uncomfortable feeling. And I think we could all probably agree with that. Intense anger can lead children to feel overwhelmed and even sometimes afraid. And by using words like, let's do this, or together, you show your child that they are not alone. Okay. And you are there to support them. So identifying it, saying things like, I see you're feeling angry. Let's work through this together. How can I help you? That is one of the biggest questions I find myself asking students is, how can I help you? And, when they say, I don't know, I mean, that to you is a prime example of not being able to identify the emotion or know what to do. When they actually say, I do not know, that's when you have to be able to brainstorm with them some of the ideas or things that you can do to help them. Now, sometimes it can be helpful to ask your child what they think the next steps are. I mean, this can offer them a sense of control in the situation. If you feel like your child needs more guidance, you can provide ideas for coping strategies that they can use as like, let's talk outside, let's take a break, let's try some deep breaths together. Again, using let's and together is going to show just even more support for them. It shows them that you care and that you're going to be supportive in those overwhelming situations. Now, if your child has acted out in anger and didn't do what was expected of him or her, offering to give the child a fresh start can be very helpful. A redo can be a great way to help your child have a feeling of success after making a poor choice. Okay. Now, although the incident may seem trivial to us adults, it is important not to diminish your child's feelings. So if we say things like, calm down, stop crying, stop being a baby, I don't know why you're acting like this, or you just simply, tell them to go away, they may feel ashamed of the feelings that they're experiencing. And if we tell them just to calm down, that may bring out or remind the child of their inability to stay calm in the situation, which can further feelings of shame or embarrassment. Remember that anger is a normal and common feeling. However, if you do feel like your child has a particularly difficult time managing their anger, or if it affects their daily functioning, such as interacting with peers or completing schoolwork or being in the classroom, things like that, it can be helpful to consult some outside help. And you can talk to your child's pediatrician about that, or I can help you get connected to some resources in the area that can support you and your child. I do hope, though, that the ideas we talked about today will give you a good place to start. And as I always say, if you're interested in information or any kind of additional support, feel free to call anytime or send me an email, and I'm happy to help however I can. So again, I appreciate y'all's time today. I hope you enjoy the rest of your week, and I'll see you soon.